That might,
So I would like to call to order the Wednesday, May 19th regular meeting of the City of Palm Springs Public Arts Commission. And I'd like to ask Jay to call the roll, please.
Yes. Vice Chair Merrigan,
here,
Commissioner Pritchard,
Here.
Commissioner Yanni,
Present.
Commissioner Favreau,
here,
Chair Sheffer,
Here.
Commissioner Gladstone. I just.
Oh, yes, she is.
She's here.
Her camera's not on, but she is.
All right. And Commissioner Murray. Not
Okay,
seeing-
so that's 6.
We have 6.
Okay, great. I would now like to have a motion to accept the agenda.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda for the meeting.
Thank you. A second?
I second it.
Okay. Now, before we do public comments, I would like all of our guests to introduce themselves. And if you wouldn't mind spelling your name, because we'd like to keep track for the minutes.
Madam Chair, can we get a vote on the?
Oh, sorry.
acceptance of the agenda?
All in favor of accepting the agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. All right. Usually it's Commissioner Yanni who keeps us on the straight and narrow. Okay. I don't see any names on here. Oh, there we go. Okay. Let's, I'll tell you the ones I see, and then if I miss anybody, let me know. Gary, just introduce yourself and tell us where you're from and spell your name, please.
Gary Armstrong, G-A-R-Y-A-R-M-S-T-R-O-N-G. I've lived in Palm Springs full-time for 6 years, and prior to that, I lived in Manhattan, New York City for 29 years.
Excellent. Okay, Barrett, and you're muted, so unmute yourself.
Everyone, Barrett Newkirk. It's BarrettNewkirk. Palm Springs resident since 2013, and I'm an applicant to serve on the Arts Commission.
Very good. Okay. Again, I don't know why not, but I'm not getting all of the, okay.
Helene Varon, or
Yes, that's me.
Okay.
I moved here during COVID on Mother's Day last year, and I'm from the art world. You can see behind me Andy Warhol portrait of me. I've been in the art world my entire life and served on many boards of museums, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm pretty hooked into the community here of artists, curators, critics, and collectors.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, Christina.
Hi, I'm Christina Demiani. That's Christina Demiany. I was born and raised in Palm Springs, and similarly to Gary, I've lived in Manhattan, but only for the last 7 years. Came back during the pandemic, decided to just change up everything. So now I'm living in my hometown again, and I have a master's degree in art business, and I work at Sotheby's Institute of Art out of New York. So I work remotely on East Coast time, early. And I saw this opening and I thought, wow, what a great way to engage with one of my favorite cities in the world. So I'm excited to be considered.
Great. Well, welcome. And Alicia, just say you're here for the record. But you don't need
Hi, Alicia Thomas, ALICIA, and I'm working with you guys on a special project.
hopefully, right. Did I miss anybody?
Matthew Lesniak. There's a
Yes,
Matthew.
my name is Matthew, and thank you for pronouncing my name correctly.
pleasure.
Lesniak. I've lived in Palm Springs for 2.5 years. I moved here in 2019, I believe. I'm not sure if you can include the previous year because we're all sort of in lockdown. But I'm very happy. I completed the application form to serve on this committee, and I'm excited about being considered.
Great.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Now, we've heard from you, but if you would like to make a further public comment, this is the time that has been set aside for members of the public to address the Public Arts Commission on items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission, and agenda items if the member of the public cannot be present later in the meeting at the time the item is heard by the commission. Additionally, members of the public may address the commission on each item listed on the posted agenda at the time each item is heard. Although the Public Arts Commission values your comments, pursuant to the Brown Act, it generally cannot take any action on items not listed on the posted agenda, and 5 minutes is assigned for each speaker. Okay, but thank you all for coming and for introducing yourselves. Okay, we have on the agenda the approval of the minutes from the meeting of April 21st, but I don't think we have them. Is that
They
true?
were sent this morning.
Yeah.
Oh, did anyone have a chance to read them?
I
Yeah,
did.
I've read through them and I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of our Wednesday, April 21st meeting.
I'll second the motion.
Does anyone have any additions or changes that they would like to?
To the minutes?
Okay, then all in favor of adopting the minutes from the meeting of April 21st, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. And Jay, we're kind of behind in our minutes, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Is there a way to catch up without really just making it an awful lot of work for someone? Is the video enough, or does it need to be?
I believe it needs to be written at this point, but we're getting on it, Madam Chair.
Okay. I mean, I realize this hasn't been the best time to get things done. Okay. Anything else to do with the minutes? Okay. My report is actually quite exciting. If you can see this, this is a poster of the art benches of Palm Springs,
Nice.
which it's hot off the presses. And we have been talking with Jeffrey Bernstein from Destination PSP and the Chamber and Main Street, all the people that helped put the bench projects together, about having a real launch on May 26th and inviting all of the artists that can to come and take a big picture. We'd also we're going to make a big blow up of the poster and ask the artists who want to sign their bench and frame that and present it to the City Council on May 27th. So as soon as we have some more information, I could use all your help in getting in touch with the artists, because many of you are in touch with them. But I think it'll be fun. Does anyone have any questions about it? Oh, I should mention it. It's going to be sold for $25, but first we can give out as many as we want to. We can give one to each artist. We made 500 copies, so we can give one to each artist. We can give them to members of the City Council, to people at City Hall, the Chamber, the Convention Center, all the people that helped. But the funds that we collect from selling them can go to pay for the map that we wanted to do at the same time, but wasn't in any of the budgets. So, so as soon as we know the details of where it will be available, I hope you'll all help publicize it. Does anyone have any comments on the poster?
It looks great. Thank you.
Yeah, I would send you a smaller version of it, but it's the last time it was in a PDF, it didn't have all the things. And it does say, we debated a lot about how much information to put on it, like artist names and things, but it has our website, pspublicarts.com, so that if someone wants to look something up, they can. and we're going to have all the benches covered there. Okay, and the last part of my report is the report that I put with the agenda. And I don't know if you had a chance to read that, but I tried to sum up what we have been doing during COVID and how we've been able to respond quickly to requests from businesses downtown or the parks or other community groups to get some art going in their area. I'm very proud to say we've paid more than $70,000 to artists with an average of between $1,000 and $1,500. And so the rest of my report is a request basically to the City Council to make a few changes to the public arts ordinance so that we can continue to do this on this sort of temporary street art kind of scale, because the ordinance is really written so that developers can put a piece of art in their project and ask for reimbursement. And over the last 33 years, Commission has really evolved to doing lots more art that we generate. And so
Madam Chair, if we could have everybody mute their microphones, please. We're getting a bit of sound coming through. Thank you. Okay.
So I'm going to ask Cindy, when you do the staff report for our meeting, if you would include my report as part of it. The idea is we'd like to get this idea in front of the council, realizing that they probably won't take it up for quite a while. Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, so because, the next thing we need to do is to approve the budget for fiscal year 2021-22. And Jay, do you have that to put up on the screen or?
I do.
Okay.
Can everybody see that?
Okay, now, just to explain a little bit, the Public Art Fund is a self-contained special fund into which comes the fees paid by developers, and then which we can spend on all of the things that are in our ordinance. And it doesn't expire at the end of a fiscal year, it carries over. But unfortunately, the accounting of how much in fees came in this year will not be available by the time the budget is voted on by the council. So for the last few years, someone in finance department has estimated $180,000 will come in. The last couple of years, business has been good and it has been more than that. But we can only budget on what we have left over from this year because we just don't know what next year will be. Generally, whatever comes in, and this, let's say it's $180,000 or $200,000, goes under art. Where is it? Art acquisition, but it can be moved into other budget items. So this budget is not meant to restrict us from doing new things that aren't in the budget, but we will have to ask to have the money, the funds moved. Does anyone have any questions about the budget or?
Question.
Yeah.
So just to clarify that even though the PS Art Museum allocation comes from our budget, which I totally support, is that still allocated via like a grant application process to the city?
No, by approving our budget, the city council will approve the $50,000. However, each year we've had a different scope of services that the museum would provide. Normally, it goes to make Thursday evenings from 4 to 8 free to the public, free admission. And then we started saying, okay, then we would like to work with the museum to do some programs on those nights. And so for the last couple of years, that's been in the contract. We're now at a point where the museum will not be open that late. They'll only be open until 7 on Thursday nights. So this year's contract says that there will be free admission from 5 to 7. And that's what the council had to approve. Just each year, what's the money going to go for? But by passing our budget, the art museum does not have to apply for it. They simply have to negotiate what it's for.
Great. I have another question, which
Yeah.
is the insurance line, does that cover our insurance for the collection, or is that a different kind of insurance?
Jay, I think it's just part of, if you notice above it, we still pay for some administrative services, even though we don't have any staff in our budget. Is that related to that?
Well, I believe it's an allocation for the entire, the fund share of the entire city budget having to do with insurance. So overall, I believe that would include the art collection. But it's by far not the total amount for the art collection.
You know what, Alicia, if you could add that to your list of questions. You know, we've always said that we're self-insured, but it might be good to find out if that's true.
Well, I asked too, just because I know, yeah, having that clarity would be good, especially as the commission does sort of like temporary loans of artwork. It'd be just good to know how that works.
I had a question related to Mara's in terms of the museum allocation. Has there been any discussion of bringing back because the whole thing with the Thursday nights was always connected to the Village Fest.
Right.
So if there's no plan for Village Fest, maybe we should consider, you know, making Sundays free or something, you know, or like, I mean, are we locked into something with Thursdays, or we can, I mean, we can change that when it comes time to do the actual contract. Is that right?
There is a committee, I think, meeting about how and when to restart Village Fest. But I do know that the museum used to have free hours on Sunday funded by a foundation. And I think that's no longer the case. At the moment, they're only open, I think it's Wednesday through Sunday, or maybe even Thursday through Sunday. So it's something to be alert for to next year, what they're able to do and what's the best use. And I will say that in 2019, which is the last year for which it was more or less normal, 50,000 people went to the museum on Thursday evenings. And so it's really a worthwhile expenditure for the city. It made it available to just so many more people. And having Village Fest certainly helped. People just came by then. Any other questions?
Just one quickly.
Yes.
Sorry, clarification. What is,
Russell, why don't you?
what is the non-capital equipment?
You know, it's one of those lines that comes from the finance department. I don't know if Cindy, do you know if anything we do gets charged to that?
I don't know if we've got anything from this last year that's been charged there, but I can check on that.
Okay. Sure. I noticed we didn't put any money in that category. So
and that's a normal account that every department and every fund has.
I think that's it. And, you know, we apparently used to have some sort of a budget to maintain the Kennedy bust that's now at the airport. But no one seems to remember, you know, when and how. And we moved the the Kennedy bust, and we restored it, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago without touching any other fund. It's all very, some of these things are not a lot of institutional memory. So, but
Yeah,
if
that
you
was
remem-
my question, like, on the other paperwork, the Kennedy bus, there was like $40,000 there under that line item. And then on here, there's nothing, so
it's just blended in with the
that's,
rest because it didn't seem to have a use. I mean, it hadn't been used in such a long time.
and then the other paperwork had, I think, like $7,000 or $5,000 for educational outreach, and now it's been zeroed out.
What are you, which other
So if
paper?
we could put some money into that.
Right. Well, at the beginning of
It
the
was the
next,
paperwork that was included with this paperwork.
oh, this is different. I don't, has it changed since?
Yeah, like this,
Hold on, I'm gonna
yeah,
look.
it was, there were two documents. So this was one, and then the next one, the numbers were different. Some of the line items on this one were zeroed from that other paperwork.
Okay, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
This budget,
expenditure status report, Madam Chair. And as you know, with this current budget you have before you, it's essentially a basic budget with the ability to transfer or acquire art primarily through the public art acquisition line. So essentially most of the resources are being allocated there after accounting for the contractual services and the ongoing maintenance and the basic types of services that the commission has contracted for.
So Jay, one question for you. So if we, like, just vote on this now because maybe we don't have ideas for changes at the moment, but say in June or in July, we want to add like $2,000 to printing and $3,000 to any of these other line items. Are we able to do that and subtract it from the art acquisition?
Up to certain amounts. So the transfers can happen. The expenditures are really, when you do say pay for that printing, the authorities for that are limited to certain amounts. And so this is one of the items that the chair has been trying to rectify with how the ordinance treats expenditures of funds for acquisition and maintenance of art. So that's been a big part of that. But ordinarily under the city's regular procurement rules, which the majority would fall under, yeah, that can be done, Commissioner Merrigan, to it's just that over $25,000 required approval.
right,
Oh yeah, no, just a couple $1,000 or whatever.
right. And that we've done that all along. And the way we had to turn in something for a budget. And so Jay and I looked at what we spent this past year. And, we didn't do anything, nobody went to conferences, nobody bought office supplies. We didn't have an employee. Those lines have stayed in our budget forever. So we just, the place where we really expanded what we did is contractual services. That never used to be a thing, but paying Sarah and Madalena and Tyson, but this is just because the city council has to pass a budget that adds up to what's in our fund. And then sometime around September, we'll get another $180,000 or $200,000. And at that point, I think the commission can certainly just ask to allocate that new money any way they want. So this is sort of a reflection of what we did this past year. But once the new money comes in, you know, you can put it into any categories.
Okay, okay, cool.
And hopefully there'll be a clue when they publish the full budget that says what they expect the income to be.
And then maybe that Kennedy bus thing can be another track down story.
That fund is meant to function more like an endowment does, which is that you're never going to spend $40,000 waxing a bronze in a single year. You might spend $1,000. So it seems like it would be inaccurate to place that large amount in there. And that would be like a different budget.
Yeah, so I think that's something we should try, you know, chase down what that, you know, the derivative of that.
Great. Okay. Anything else? And remember, this is just the budget that goes into the multi-million-dollar budget of the city. So it's just one little fund, and
Can I clarify, Madam Chair? So it just seems like in the past, a lot of our educational outreach has been done by contractors like Sarah. Is that, I mean, in some ways, and Tyson. So that's like maybe a little confusing and maybe not totally accurate. I mean, in terms of if we're thinking about doing outdoor festivals or things like that, I agree with Tracy that we should think about just allocating some funds into the educational outreach area, maybe $5,000. And I just wanted to ask, the public art acquisition line, could that be used towards restoration projects, especially large scale ones, or is that only for the commission of new work or the acquisition of new work?
It's where they put all the money that isn't allocated elsewhere. It's just, it's a made up number. All these numbers are just placeholders. And unfortunately, because it takes so long to figure out how much extra money is coming in, it's usually September, all of a sudden, when it appears in the budget. And I'm sure that if the commission asked to pass a new budget in September based on more money, that there would be no problem as long as the commission voted on it. And so all we need to do right now is vote on, as I say, it's a placeholder. We have to have something, but we've never had any difficulty, you know, taking out the money for maintenance out of acquisition. I mean, art acquisition is really the, you know, just the leftover funds so that it adds up correctly.
Are we ready for a motion?
Yes, you want to make a motion?
Yes, can I make a motion to approve our Public Arts Commission budget for the fiscal year 2021 to 2022?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? But I would like to suggest that the 3 commission members whose terms extend past June 30th, which is Tracy, Russell, and Shonda, that you remember this conversation and at the first meeting in September, asked to take a look at this and just make it more in line with what you think you're going to be doing. It's hard to guess ahead of time how much money there will be. So it's always a nice surprise, though. It's like you're getting a bonus. All right. Now, the next item is it's sort of in line with my chair's report that these are the kinds of mini grants we've been dealing with for the last year, and yet we we did vote on a total amount of money for MiniGrants, but we had an understanding that these small amounts did not have to go to the city council. However, our new city manager coming in and trying to understand what we've been doing has requested that we determine exactly which things we would like to do by the end of this fiscal year, and send them in a package to the city council. It's a way of reporting also. So if you have the list.
So is it possible, can we just, can we just blanket approve the ones? Because all of these, from my sense, have been in the works for a long time.
Right. And I think that's the idea. We can approve them as a group, and we can ask the city council to also approve them, just based on, this is the last month of this fiscal year where we're going to be finishing up these projects. And the only, most of these locations have already given us permission. The Tuskegee Memorial is at the James O. Jesse Center, and we've done other projects there. We've done things at the Skylark and Hunters. The one that is in a park that is we have not done things in before is the Garden Dome at Demuth Park. And so it's been suggested, and I checked that the Parks and Rec Department would like an update on what has been done in parks and what is proposed. And I would like a volunteer, someone who's been working on these park projects, to just go to the Parks and Rec meeting on Monday and tell them about this project at Demuth Park. Shonda, do you have, it's at 5:30 on Monday on Zoom.
So far I have that open. I can do that. If anything pops up, is there somebody that can use me? I can call for backup just in case.
Would someone like to be the alternate? It's you know, it's a 5-minute report. But
I could be the backup person.
Okay. We have, we've had very good relations with the Parks and Rec Department, and all the things at James and Jesse Desert Highlands were cleared both with Jarvis Crawford and also, you know, a group of, there's a committee, an art committee. And so, but this is just, you know, we're trying to dot all the I's and cross all the T's on this last bunch, so that again, in the fall, the essentially new commission with 4 new commissioners will be able to start fresh and see how the requirements of the ordinance, while still, you know, not having to take everything to the city council. So, anyone have any questions about these 7 projects? You might just, Sean, explain what the QR codes will do on the electric boxes, the traffic boxes.
Oh, I'm super excited about these. So one of the proposals that I wanted to do is the actual public arts logo that we have on our website and on our social media, to put that logo on the back of the traffic boxes as well, just to establish that this is a public arts piece. It's sponsored. And also just to have that uniformity of, you know, public arts being everywhere. And in addition to that sticker, there'll be a QR code with the artist's information, sticker, interview. And I'm hoping that this will also leapfrog into it being an interactive map. I talked to Madalena about creating that. And also I talked to Sarah about working on that because she's already created the first map for the initial a proposal. So I'm hoping to get both of them to work on this interactive map and QR codes for the stickers. So yeah, it's also going to have the soundtrack of the boxes on there. The most important part. So
right?
Say that again, Anne?
The mixtape.
Yes, the mixtape. So the hidden mixtape, when you're QR code, you'll get the interview, you'll get the website, you'll get all information on the boxes. You'll get a map to where another box is located, and hopefully the benches as well. So it'll just be like a information, kiosks on almost every corner in Palm Springs.
And I should mention, Russell, want to just speak quickly about the QR code that we used with the Amanda Gorman mural. I don't know if it's possible. We should ask Madalena if it's possible to get a number, how many hits have gone on the website from that. But
yeah, that was the first very successful QR code that we added to the signage. And I don't know exactly how many hits it's getting, but I know for myself, when I went down to it, stood there just pretending to be a regular person happening by, to be able to click the QR code and listen to that incredible woman recite her poem again at the inauguration was just so thrilling and moving. So to see her in person. And I also want to mention that the mural, which I had mentioned to Tracy and to Sarah, Amanda Gorman was featured in a very large spread in the May issue of Vogue. And in the interview talking about her public appearances and public profile after the inauguration and murals that showed up, the two murals that were mentioned in the article, Washington, D.C. and Palm Springs. So.
Exactly.
Good on us.
Yes. So.
Shall we make a motion?
Yes, to adopt this package of 7 unfinished projects.
Do we need to name all the projects, or we can just say that the group of 7 projects in the attachment or something?
I don't know. What do you think, Jay?
I think we should name all the projects.
Okay. I have it up on my screen. Shall I do it?
Okay. Yes.
Go ahead.
I would like to make a motion to approve the following projects which are already in progress. And these include the number 1 Tuskegee Airmen Tribute at the James F. Jesse Desert Highland Unity Center.
I think you should give the amount
for $1,500. The Skylark Hotel Windows 2 project for $3,000. The Hunters Street Barriers 2 project for $4,250 for 5 artists. The Garden Dome at Demuth Park, proposed budget $2,500. Temporary art window treatments at 3 sites: Angel View on Indian Canyon, El Mirasol Restaurant on South Palm Canyon, and Banducci's Restaurant on South Palm Canyon. In total for those various projects, $6,000. And the utility box project at the James O. Jesse Center, which is a project with youth, for $750. And funding for the QR code stickers for the Stop in the Name of Love project, budget to be determined.
Very good. May I have that's a motion from Tom. May I have a second?
Oh, just a slight correction. Tom mentioned for the temporary window treatment budget of $6,000. It's actually $5,750.
Is that correct, though? It seems a little low.
It says 6 on the thing that I was reading
just for the 3 that are set.
Okay, so that's for the 3. Okay.
Oh, okay.
If that's correct. Okay.
All right.
Okay, cool.
All right, then I'll second the motion.
Is there a second? Yes,
Second.
that's okay. All right. Any other comments? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, great. And I promised Cindy, by the way, that we would, for the purposes of this meeting, some of these things are just an outline of what's going to happen, but every project will have an artist agreement, a W-9 form, and pictures of the finished project so that Cindy can turn in the invoices. So I promised. So please come through,
Yeah.
all of you.
Cindy has them for all of the window
Right.
treatments that have been.
Right, but she'll need
Yes,
finished
yeah,
pictures at the end and stuff.
Yeah, we have the entire package.
Okay, so I'm going to ask Mara to just explain item 3. But
G3.
remind you that we at the last meeting we voted to extend the taming of horses, that Chris Meyer's piece on the Tockwitz median, basically through an arrangement with him and his gallery, and our promise to maintain it if need be and to deinstall it. So Mara, if you would talk about this one and what the plan is.
So the idea is that after the agreement between the artist and the city is concludes, that the city would enter a loan agreement with the artist to keep it up for another year, I think, with, I don't know if it's 30 to 60 days notice where either party could terminate the agreement, and in lieu of a loan fee, which is fairly standard. It's something that we've always done as part of the commission, is making sure the artists are paid. The Arts Commission would like to recommend that the city, the Arts Commission pay for those deinstallation costs,
And
which
return it to the artist, yeah.
Yes, which should be and I believe also return shipping, which I believe will be well under $10,000 for both of those things. And then I would recommend that the city work with the contractor who has already estimated those deinstallation expenses and is local and does a lot of work doing large scale installations and installations, Rice Construction. They're familiar with the work. They helped install the work and handle the work. So I also would recommend that there are, I believe, 6 additional copies of flags. And while the flags, we're all surprised they're still flying and that they haven't been ripped to shreds, but there are additional ones, and those should be held either with the city or my recommendation would be with Rice Construction or whoever's sort of contracted to maintain or fix the work if needed. So but those are once that agreement's signed, those materials should go somewhere in the possession of either the city or a contracted agent who helps us maintain the artworks in the city.
Which is great. So, and this installation, the Wishing Well, just judging from social media, was extremely well received, and the artist was there several times and did some workshops with kids, and I think it's just the kind of project that we want to support. And
oh, I'm sorry. I was talking about the flags. I didn't mean to say, I meant to say that there's additional materials, like plastic materials. That's what I meant to say. I'm sorry.
There are flags for the other one, right?
Yeah, I don't think that will be necessary. And to use it all. I think the project will be pretty sturdy. It's, you know, those plastic gallons have lived for decades in the world against the elements. But I would like to say, I do think it's very important that the work is looked at monthly for maintenance. I do also think we should definitely keep maintain some kind of a clause that says, you know, either party can you know, just end the agreement, just in case there are other art opportunities that come up. Just in case, you know, it is aging in a way. And I would also like to say, I think it's important to make sure we do take it down with it at the end of the term and not renew it any longer. The project was always conceived as a temporary installation. And I think that site, what's been so exciting about having that site there is that it's made the city and the people who live here very excited about this beautiful park. And there's a lot of opportunities there to continue to do this kind of work, whether it's with Desert X or any of these other entities or through other kinds of loans. It's a really great site and an important site for our city to maintain that relationship with. And I know that Shonda and I talked a bit about wanting to maintain a community connection. So perhaps conducting workshops, you know, Zoom meetings with the artist who is Ghanaian at some point next year, things like that. So I hope it's something that the Public Arts Commission can continue, and I would be happy to support as a citizen and not a council member.
I think, Mara, because you were involved with both of these projects, that I imagine that it would be helpful to the city attorney to put some of these, the conditions in writing so that they could fold it into a contract. Because this is, they're quite similar in their needs. I'm just also curious, the other thing that we had a hearing on in past was the tile mural on the West Elm building. Or it was not tile to begin with, but do you know if that's going to go forward now that Desert X is over?
Yes, it will go forward. I believe the installation is to begin on June 1st.
Oh, good. Okay.
Tiles are here. They have arrived from Guadalajara and they are awaiting
So is that Desert Y or
yeah.
Desert Z?
XYZ.
I
Russell.
have after Russell, I have a question.
Okay. Russell, did you have?
Well, yeah, excuse me, a couple of questions to Mara. What should we be considering as far as signage, both for Wishing Well and for the horses going forward, being that we're now going to enter into a sort of a loan term sponsored by the Public Arts Commission? And then an auxiliary question, because we've entered into these agreements with these two installations, and a third one that we had discussed, although sort of fell to the wayside, was Indian Land. Is it too late for us to consider any extension of that piece as well?
You know, I don't know. It hasn't been on my radar or something that, you know, I understand that project will be on view until August 16th. I believe there's whatever the permit is to keep it up has been extended until that point.
Right.
I know in terms of like what the artist is thinking, that is meant to be a project that travels. It's not meant to be something that's in a single place for that extended period of time. You know, I will also say it requires, you know, a little more sort of maintenance and checking, and I don't recommend it. To be honest, I don't think we have the capacity to kind of manage that large scale of especially that windy area, and I don't know.
Yeah, it's massive. So. Very good.
But yeah, I mean, we still have it here another 3 months, and you know, great opportunities to collaborate with Gerald Clark or you know, an artist whose work is there. I think there are still ways to activate it. In terms of thinking about the signage, that's a really good question. And maybe it's an opportunity to actually think of one of the things that's a minor point, but I think we've been very inconsistent in our signage and our style for our artwork. And
Right.
maybe this is a good opportunity to really think about what you want that to look like, how we incorporate the logos. Certainly putting a stick in the ground with a metal sign definitely works. But also because, you know, I think it would be really great to draw attention to the Richard Wyatt mural as well. I know people ask a lot of questions about that, and having something more, you know, maybe it doesn't have to be a brass plaque glued to the wall, but something that can provide that textual information as well as a QR code. I think that's a great idea. So
Okay, hold that thought for the next item.
Right.
Tracy, did you have something? I apologize. For some reason, I can't see everybody on this. I don't know, Jay, do you have any way to?
You know, Anne,
on gallery view, but it's only.
Anne, I know, I might know why. If you go to stop to the video and you click on your video settings, you may have hide non-video participants in your view.
But I don't even have all the video ones, but I will.
So just go to click on the little arrow at the video, and it says, go to video settings.
Okay.
And unclick hide non-video participants.
Okay.
That should help.
Yes, it does. It gives me more of you. Okay, very good, because I do want to be able to call on people. Okay, Tracy?
Yeah, I went over to see it today, and my concern is that it's starting to really deteriorate on the ground. So I think if we are keeping it, it should really only be very temporary, since it is really ephemeral. But I think we need to have either it fluffed up before we take it over, which would be ideal. And then we really do have to think of having maybe someone at the rec center or someone looking out at it and checking on it, because we also don't want that plastic blowing into the desert. So so that's my concern, seeing it today, because it is like the windiest part of town. So I think we need to have a little plan for that.
Okay, well, I think that, again, we may just need a couple of commissioners to take on each of these, just to keep, especially through the contract process.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Favreau has her hand up.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I'm already jumping the gun to the next item, but this is Mara. I wanted to know the information with that you guys acquired for the West Elm wall and the tile. Mathematically, is it something that we can convert to see if that wall is similar to the JOJ wall, so we can get some?
No.
Hang on one sec, Shonda. Okay, let's have a vote on the wishing well, and then we'll move right on to the James Wyatt mural. Okay, may I have a motion to?
I have a question. So yeah. Can we vote like with, I guess to Tracy's point, can we vote with the possibility of not doing it if it's decided that it's not viable for a year, say, or can we vote on it with the option of, say, making it a few months, like Indian Land or something like that?
I would recommend that we do it with a clause that has like each party can terminate the contract with a certain amount of notice, like 30 days or something. I do not think safety or this is going to degrade. I think what's happening right now is the spring grasses are growing into it, which is actually creating a kind of interesting development. I know the artist kind of liked that. And I am curious what will happen as it gets really hot and they stop watering the grass. It's probably gonna kind of dry up again. Right. But I mean, I think if we ask whoever's maintaining, I don't know if the art collective still is, to check on it regularly once a month, and just to have a look at it. I think that will be adequate. to see, and I think just because the Jarvis and Cynthia are like city staff, they will let us know if there is a serious problem. But in terms of the idea that the plastic will float away, each of the plastic tiles is tied together with a wire that is crimped at least 9 points around each square. So I don't think loose debris is going to be an issue. That said, I think regular checking in should mitigate any danger to the environment or to people there.
Well, I think if it's all right, I think that we should ask Mara, since she's familiar with both sides of this contract, the artist and the needs of the site, if you would just shepherd this contract through. And I think people have made very good suggestions, but we're going to have, it'll go to the city attorney, and he may have some ideas of how that's worded, or what the conditions are that would trigger that.
So maybe we should make the motion and not specify, like in the agenda it says a 1-year loan. Maybe we should just specify an extension.
Okay.
Would
you like to make that as an amendment?
Sure.
Well,
are we ready for the motion?
It shouldn't be just to be clear, it shouldn't be an extension. This needs to be a new.
Right, I understand.
Currently the agreement is, so. Yeah.
So up to 1 year, maybe.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. All right.
So are we ready? I need my glasses.
Maybe it also should be like, because if it's a 30 to 60 day quit contract, then if we're on the hook for up to $10,000, it should be a minimum maybe of 4 to 6 months. So you can't quit the contract before then.
But the price, the dollars go towards deinstalling it. It's not like rent for a certain amount of time.
Oh, I know, but we wouldn't want to have a contract and then have the artist say, I want it back in a month, and then we pay $10,000 for 1 month. So.
Okay. Well, I think we can explain some of these issues to the city attorney so that he can write a contract that satisfies the city as well.
I can also, I get the quote for the deinstallation expenses. I should mention that most of the structure will simply be destroyed, taken away and destroyed. The only material that will be kept is the plastic, which will be rolled up and can be put in like a van, and it doesn't need special packing or anything. So the deinstallation should be well under $10,000, probably double the maximum you'll need, but
All right, well, if you will just make sure that all of these thoughts get into the contract, we can make bullet points and give them to the city attorney, and then if he comes back with something that covers all these concerns, I think that will be fine. Okay, Tom.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve a loan agreement for up to a year for the Wishing Well sculpture and the agreement would be between Sergei Atukwe Clotti and Simkowitz Gallery at the James O. Jesse Desert Highland Unity Center, with the agreement able to be stopped with a 30-day or 60-day notice by either the artist or the city, and that the city will cover the deinstallation of the work at the end of whatever the agreement comes to.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Okay. So this leads us right into the other issue that Shonda and Mara have been sort of monitoring at James O. Jesse. So Mari, you want to just explain quickly? This is going to be a big project, and it will be clearly the beginning of the next fiscal year and a lot of new commissioners before it goes forward. But we do need to see if it's even going to be possible. So Mara, why don't you just quickly explain what the issue is there? Why we need an engineer's report.
Sorry. So just to summarize, all the commissioners have identified that the Richard Wyatt mural currently installed at the James O. Jessie Center is 25 years old. It's in terrible condition, but it is also representation of mural art by a fairly significant African-American artist based in Southern California who has done important murals at Union Station and throughout Los Angeles and the Southern California area. We've identified it as important to our community to restore this work of art. And when I first joined the commission, it didn't seem possible, but now that we're seeing a lot of development in the city, it seems more possible and also very important to do as we're thinking about having the Public Arts Commission and taxpayer money going to all neighborhoods in the city and not only downtown business development. The James O. Jessie Center serves primarily African-American community, largest concentration in the Coachella Valley. Also another really important reason to make sure that something that's part of the recent history of the revitalization of Palm Springs is maintained. So in that regard, I reached out to Richard Wyatt. He did maybe 5 years ago, maybe 7 years ago, he retiled, he restored a mural on a large, one of the records companies buildings, but he did it in tile because it had similar issues as ours, which is that the wall was a south facing wall. And so it was receiving just a lot of light. And it's looks great. It's great. It just, it's a little expensive. And so Shonda, the information the question you asked about, I have some specifics about how big the tiles are. They're about 12 inches square. They weigh about 4 or 5 pounds each. And the first thing Mr. Wyatt said to me was, you really need to make sure that this wall can deal with the stress load of putting all of this tile on it, because I forget what the dimensions are, but I believe the mural is at least 100 feet long, maybe 80 feet long, 80 to 100 feet long. And I have to look, I'm sorry, I can't find my email right now that says that, but it's very, very large. So I've called a few places and I'm waiting to hear back. I received information that we need to actually contact a structural engineer. So I have a few local numbers and I've reached out to them and I'm hoping I can get, they have to look at the plans that several city staff members kindly shared with us. I cannot read architectural engineering plans, nor do I feel safe even attempting to try that. So we can share this information and hire a structural engineer to give us an assessment of whether it is even possible, whether at that scale or perhaps at a slightly smaller scale, since the artist will be hand painting and repainting the whole painting on tiles. So the first step is to just see if that's possible. And so that is why we're asking to approve this expense to contract a structural engineer to look at the building, evaluate the building and the plans and see what kind of stress load that wall can take.
Okay.
And perhaps look at some other walls on that building as well as potential options for us.
Okay, this is, if you remember, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, we got in touch with the artist about touching it up with paint. And he really didn't feel that that was the way to go. And it would be very difficult. we love the idea that some of the people who were children when this was done are now still in the community, and it would be fun if they were involved. But this idea developed of doing it in tiles so that we wouldn't have to do this every 10 or 20 whatever years. So
Can I just add on to that?
yeah.
So again, this is mainly for the individuals who may be joining the commission who are here at our meeting. So this is something, as Commissioner Gladstone and Chair Sheffer have mentioned, something we've been working on for many years. And Commissioner Gladstone and I went to the meetings of the neighborhood. And one of the things I just wanted to convey to the potential new commissioners is how important the mural is to that neighborhood. And as Anne said, there are individuals in that neighborhood who remember when it was painted. Another thing is, again, in terms of this process that we've determined in terms of the maintenance and degradation of the mural, it has been repaired in the past. It was coated at one point with a coating that actually damaged it. So that, it's this long-standing issue that would be really, really significant and important for the commission to address. And this is a really great forward-thinking way to address that. And it's an important piece, as Mara mentioned, and something that should happen, and something that we have worked on. We've listened, we've gone to meetings, we have listened to the community. It is extremely important to them. So I just want to convey some of that background to the future commissioners so that they understand what we've been hearing and what we've been working on this long time, because it does, I'm sure, as Mara mentioned, it seems like, oh my God, it's this huge project, but it's something that's been very thoughtfully considered for many years. And I'm thrilled to see an engineer, because it finally feels like the first step in something that finally will give this mural the sort of respect and prominence that it deserves.
And I think if we vote this expenditure today, there's some possibility that at our next meeting, our last meeting of this commission in June, we'll have some answers to some of those questions, and people can start thinking about, it'll be a new fiscal year, predominantly new commission. And so this is to tee it up finally. Some of us have been on the commission for 6 years, and I think that's how long we've been talking about it. Would like to make a motion, Tom, do that so well.
Madam Chair, can I, before you make a motion, I just want to mention that whatever is approved tonight, if you approve the expenditure of 5,000, we want to make sure we send that to council.
Yes, everything here.
Yeah.
And this is not how we haven't done $5,000 expenditures before, but what we're trying to do is sort of finish up the year with these things that we've been doing, and we want to be able to transition to next year. And so we're asking the commission the council to approve this kind of plan of action with each of these contracts. So it's not each one, like a whole separate discussion. It's, do they approve of what we're proposing to do on all these fronts?
Yeah, I'd like to just simply then state, since it's going to the city council, that the city council has held sessions about equity and inclusivity in this city, and that this would be a very bold and important way to show that the city council is actively supporting work by African-American artists in the African-American neighborhood in our community, and to start correcting some missteps in the city in terms of thinking about public art. So this would be a first step in a really positive direction.
May I suggest that you write this in a comment instead of
Be
doing
delighted to.
And if you write it up as to what you're referring to and why we think it's important, and send it to the city clerk, he will add it to the materials for the meeting, which I think is much more effective than speaking at the beginning of the meeting, because this will presumably be on the consent agenda, which means that there's no discussion later on. So anyone who wants to write a comment about any of these things and why we're doing them, I think it's the best way to, the council members can read it before the meeting and not be trying to juggle too many things at once. So Tom, because I want to get us out of here by 7 if I can, because it's approval.
Tom is muted.
No wonder.
Hello, I'd like to make a motion to approve an engineering assessment to be done for the restoration of the Richard Wyatt mural at the James O. Jesse Center, not to exceed $5,000.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now, there's one more item that will need to go to the city council, because these contracts, by extending them, will go over the $25,000 anyway, even if it weren't, even if they were new contracts. But I would like to amend this list. I spoke to Patrick Sheehan, and he is still doing projects in his original contract. So he does not need to have the contract renewed. He simply needs to have the ability to keep working through the summer. And the same is true of Alicia and Arlene, both of whom Alicia only got started a week ago and originally was going to finish by the end of June. So it's the same contract, the same amount of money, the same scope of work, but it's probably going to take longer. And the same with Arlene, Amick, and the Art Collective. There's just, for all the reasons of COVID and other things and being short-staffed, they have not finished all of the maintenance that's in their contract. So my feeling is that it's better to get it done than, try to stick to an artificial deadline. However, in order to keep this commission running through the summer, because it traditionally doesn't meet, I would like to recommend that we add 4 months onto both Sarah's and Madalena's contracts. They will have to provide details of what they will be doing after June 30th. But if we don't have the two of them, we basically can't do anything, because Madalena is the only one who understands the website and the social media. If we do it through the end of September, the new commission might have met once. It might be better to do it through the end of December. And again, nobody gets paid without telling Cindy exactly how many hours they worked and what they did. So this is not a blank check. This is just the ability to keep going. Yes, Russell.
Right, yeah, so if I may, I strongly propose that we do the contract extensions for Sarah and for Madalena and the new contract for Tyson through the end of December. So Sarah's contract would be not to exceed 18,000. Madalena Garza would not exceed 9,000. As you mentioned, Patrick Sheehan's contract will end when it ends, whether it's June, July, or August. And the Tyson Knight contract can also be through the end of December, not to exceed $5,000, because that would be quite sufficient to do all of the repair and graffiti removal on benches and utility boxes. And it means that the new commission starting in September doesn't have to go through this process again, being that now we have to do all of these expenditures through city council. And it's done to the end of the year and we can operate successfully.
and I would mention, I forgot to mention that the reason for a contract with Tyson Knight is that the facilities department gets in touch whenever they see something that's been tagged by a graffiti artist or just really damaged. And we feel that sending Tyson out to clean it up and repaint it where it needs it, it's better than having someone who's not an artist do this. And we, at the moment, they've called us about 2 benches that someone's tagged. Every now and then they call and ask us if, if we did some graffiti, and we're able to say, no, that's real graffiti. You can wash it off. But again, Tyson would turn in the number of hours that he works to Cindy. It would not, it's not for an overall project. It's just that this seems to be happening more and more. We had to pay him to restore that sign that says greetings, because it was all made with finger paint at the La Quinta festival a couple of years ago. And he arranged to get the original paints from the artist and went out there, and you can't tell that it was sprayed with pink paint. But unfortunately, this is happening more and more. So we just feel it would be nice to have someone we could call up and say, go fix that, because it's very distressing. I think 1 or 2 of the boxes have already been graffitied.
Oh yeah, it happens. I've personally touched up the George Floyd mural about 6 times.
Yeah. And you might, if you haven't been by our graffiti park lately, we have graffiti on the graffiti, but it's actually quite good.
It is good.
So, okay. So Russell has, I guess that would be a motion to extend these 2 contracts and a contract for Tyson until December 31st, which would be 6 months. And it would mean that the commission in the fall would have a month or 2 to get up to speed. It's really, I don't know that this has ever happened before, that 4 out of 7 people our terms are ending. So we're trying to keep some continuity.
I would recommend that we do meet over the summer, and I am going to propose the projects that are on my list there for the next meeting to vote on. Otherwise, we're going to start the year way behind. So I don't think, I think we should tee up for September, but I don't think we should be assuming that we're not going to meet over the summer, and we're not going to.
In general.
No, I fully intend that we'll have a July meeting.
Yeah.
And the council doesn't meet in August, so there's no reason to have anything ready to take to them. But you could also have a study session. Right. But let's, okay. So Russell's motion is, why don't you read it again?
Approval of the extension of the contracts for Sarah Schottleman for not to exceed 18,000, Madalena Garza not to exceed 9,000, carrying through the end of December 31st, of 2021, and a new contract with Tyson Knight not to exceed 5,000 for the same time period.
Okay, and in the case of Sarah and Madalena, it would be at the same rate per hour and or per month.
Status quo.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, any other amendments or? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. So now, what I thought we would do at the end of the meeting, but I think we can just sort of tee it up, was to ask first of all, any commissioner who would like to make a comment, please do. I am hoping that at our June 16th meeting, the incoming commissioners will have been selected, but won't have, they probably will not have been approved by the city council because it's just, there's not enough times to get these things on the agenda. However, I would love it if we could have our meeting in June in person if the city is starting to have meetings, and we could meet in the council chamber for more room. But I'd love to invite the incoming commissioners and have one joint meeting. And I sent you all the ideas that the returning commissioners have been sort of formulating. And I was going to suggest that we let each of them present these ideas today, but instead I think we'll just have, if there's any commission, first of all, please read what we sent. And that might be what we talk about in June or in a study session. But does any commissioner have a comment or a request to sort of end this meeting? Because I think we just can't ruin everyone's dinner every month.
Right.
Okay.
Am I up? Okay.
Yep.
All right. I just wanted to make an announcement that one of a project that would have been a community grants project that we have already received city council approval for is an installation going onto the city-owned property called Crescendo. And this was a neighborhood project for Little Tuscany. The artist is E. Tyler Burton. It is a fantastic creation. It's a column, 16 inches in diameter and 8 feet tall, clay, ceramic, concrete, spectacular piece that will be installed on or around the middle of June. And it's, as I said, Crescendo. It's the southeast corner, West Racket Club and Leonard. And we might also install our meander sign there.
And a bench, you know, since they float around.
Yes. So
those are very heavy benches, and somehow they just move around. Anyone else? I know we don't always know where they're going. Does anyone else have a comment or a request? Yes.
6 minutes.
Well, just thanks, Russell, for resuscitating that project.
Well, I'm excited because actually
Tyler's work is really great. It's great, great outdoor art. It's great for here. I'm so glad it's found a place. So thank you for doing that.
Oh, and I'm totally thrilled because I went to Tyler's studio without really knowing who she was. I've seen her work over the last 10 years, not 10 years, but 5 or 6 years. And I'm totally love her work. Spectacular.
Great, thank you.
And this is again an example of why our temporary installations are things we can do quickly, and they this idea of putting Tyler's work in Little Tuscany on the Crescendo was rejected by the city council because they don't know what they're going to do with the Crescendo and Boulders properties. And they said, we would prefer not to put anything on those properties in case we decide to sell them. When we went back to them and said, we would like to put that there for like 8 months, everyone was very enthusiastic about it, especially Dennis Woods, whose district it is. So I think, and it's the same is true of Desert X. There are things that you really, it doesn't make sense to put things, you know, an awful lot of this, the art in this city has been there forever. And people don't even notice it anymore. You know, how many people, you know, stop and look at Sonny Bono? I don't know. But we've managed to get so much attention and so much people thinking about it and enjoying public art. And if you stand around the pit for, you know, a half an hour, there's groups of people going, oh, there's another mural, you know, and of course the babies and so it's been very gratifying. And I thank you all, because I think this commission, everybody's just worked very, very hard. Anything else for the good of the order? Tracy, are you still in traffic?
Just got here. Oh my God. Oh, what a long day. So we sent out to everybody my report on some projects to work on over the summer. So if everybody could look at those, and then I'll just reach out to everybody between now and the next meeting. And then I want to request that those are put on our agenda to vote on at the next meeting, to tee them up for the summer. And so that would be great. So there's the window install is on the top, which we voted on today. We're going to try to find a couple other locations, but all the other ones, there's a lot of data in there about them. So
okay, good. And Shonda, speaking of summer, I saw your note about a pop-up tent, and I do have some, so I will get them to you. I also have all the leftover paint from the greetings poster, which Tyson dropped off at my house, so you're welcome to use it.
Thank you.
We do have to have, last summer, the bench artist found it pretty hot by the time it got to midsummer, so we have to take that into account. Anyone else?
I just wanted to mention that I'm really excited to create more projects with different agencies, like working with Parks and Recs, working with the veterans, working with the composting, all the different projects that are like revitalizing and popping up. I really hope that the new commissioners will join us in getting public arts in every nook and cranny of the city, just to make it all nice, pretty, and shiny. And thank you to all the other commissioners for just being so gracious, answering your phone a countless number of times when I've called and asked the same question over and over. Thank you so much for that. And I really appreciate all the groundwork and the hard work that you guys have paved the way for us to continue to work hard in the city. So thank you, everyone.
Great. Okay. Tom, you only get to do this once or twice more.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting to our next regular meeting on Wednesday, June 16th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. via teleconference, which also happens to be Bloom's Day, the international celebration of James Joyce's Ulysses.
Oh,
I second.
And well, before we move on, it also happens to be the very last day of my 69th year.
we have to have cake. Remember when we used to have cake and cupcakes?
I know.
I hope that we'll be able to meet in person. The state opens up on June 15th, and I know there's some talk of, maybe some meetings could take place at City Hall, and we could spread out quite a bit, for example, in the council chamber. So perhaps Jay, you'll find out for us.
Sure.
It'd be
I
great
don't know if we voted on the adjournment.
Oh,
No, I'll second the motion.
all in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Everybody.
Good. All right. Look at that. It's 7. Okay.
Yay, bravo.
Yay. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.